Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. I'm your host, Rob, joined this week by Dave and producer JL. We waited a day as this is a special trade deadline recap version of the podcast. And we have some things to recap, although maybe not quite as much as we thought we would. Dave, JL, how are you guys doing?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question, huh? I'm good. I'm annoyed, but I'm good. I'm trying not to overreact the way everybody else seemed to overreact to today. Especially you, Tyler. No offense. Sorry for the call out, Tyler. But
shots fired early.
Some of the group chat stuff, I'm like, holy shit, dude, have a beer or something. We'll get to that. But yeah, I'm good.
JL?
I'm just messing around, Tyler.
I am okay. I am in the same boat as Dave. Try not to overreact too much. I kind of called it, but we'll see what happens in the summer. But I'm okay. I'm not as freaking out as everybody else is. So
yeah. So let's, before we get into any specific discussion, and we will start in depth with Trocheck, let's just recap the business that the Rangers have done since this kind of trade window opened, right? Which was back in January. That was the Carson Soucy trade, right, to the Islanders for a third-round pick. Obviously, the Artemi Panarin trade, we covered that in depth, but they received Liam Greentree and a conditional third. That was back on February 4th. Fast forward a month through after the Olympic break, and the Rangers made a flurry of 3 moves over the course of, about 16 hours, with Sam Carrick going to Buffalo for a third and a sixth, both 2026 picks. They made a minor league swap of Aiden Thompson for Derek Pouliot. That's an interesting one for, and deserves minor credit, I would say. And then Brennan Othmann for Jacob Battaglia. Of course, the news is the one big move that the Rangers did not make and were expected to make, which was trading Vincent Trocheck. Everyone expected that he was going to end up in Minnesota, even Trocheck himself, so much so that he took a very funny / unfunny photo with the Minnesota Wild team delegation at the Olympics. We thought Detroit might get involved. We heard Carolina made a late push. And in the end, Trocheck stays put. So you guys already referenced kind of the uproar from Rangers fans in the aftermath of this. Chris Drury did do a brief media availability a few hours before we recorded this podcast. As you'd expect, said nothing of note. Just kind of said, we're happy he's still a Ranger and we're not just going to make a deal for the sake of making a deal. So, Dave, I'll start with you. Like, what do you make of the Trocheck thing? And is this as much of a reason for consternation among Ranger fans as it has been in its immediate aftermath?
So we'll never know what was on the table. And that's a huge missing piece to everybody's reactions. And I understand the frustration. I am definitely frustrated too. But my frustration isn't with the lack of the trade. I appreciate that Drury has a price. I appreciate that he didn't take what I am guessing he considered a lowball offer from Bill Guerin.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good qualities to have in your GM. They are. Objectively, this is what you want your GM to do. I have 2 issues with this. One, it's still Chris Drury. I don't trust him. So there's that. And number 2, and this is the bigger one, Trocheck is a declining asset, and he's going to show that decline in his skill very quickly over the next 20 games because Artemi Panarin is no longer on his wing, and he's going to be playing with the best skill forward he's going to be playing with is maybe Will Cooley?
Lafreniere, maybe, depending on, yeah.
Didn't Lafreniere and Zibanejad look really good together last night?
They did.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just saying though, I mean, look,
yeah, I see what you mean.
If anything, the top 6 for this team will not be set in stone at any point in the near future.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point. Yeah. So I'm looking at that and going, okay, Trocheck, the whole reason why you really look to move him now is without Panarin, he's not a good player anymore. I mean that in the nicest way possible, but he's what, 32 now, and he's not going to get any better playing with people that aren't Artemi Panarin. So that's my issue. Is he is going to show that he is not a 70, 80 point center, and he's going to show it over the next 20 games. I wouldn't be shocked if he has 10 points to finish out the season.
JL, what was your immediate reaction?
In regards to Trocheck, I kind of called it to a degree. Even though there was a push to attempt to trade him, I still think that Drury was going to keep him in some form. That was definitely on the table, as the media reported. I don't mind it that they kept him. I really don't. Part of me thinks that if we get into a couple days in the summer, that Trocheck's going to be on this team next season. And honestly, to the consternation of many, that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, as much as he could be considered a depreciating asset, and that is the case he is, he still has some usefulness to his play, at least. I think a lot of it hedges on what draft pick they get, and also if they make a move for another winger. So in this case that they end up getting, let's just say Gavin McKenna, which, speaking on the bright side, of course, or a Stenberg, and then they go out and get a guy like a Jason Robertson, let's just say through the RFA, which, it's always up in the air, then, there is a way for you to keep him and still kind of keep the whole retool versus rebuild kind of thing. We'll never know what was offered for him unless somebody comes out and says it. So kind of getting upset on whether Drury made a trade or not is, that's beside the point. I do like that, like Dave said, objectively speaking, that he's not just making a trade to make a trade, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. And I think that, it's nothing really to lose your head about, because there is still usefulness of Trocheck, whether it's through a trade or whether it's, part of this team for next season. So I'm not too over the hill about it. There's, however, it all depends on what Drury does during the summer, whether he's a draft day trade or he's a trade after free agency, depending on whatever money kicks in or whatever. But no, it's not as bad as people are putting it out to be, because if you look at it, Trocheck didn't really want to leave. Just kind of the situation was just kind of thrust upon him, and so I think somebody was saying, "Oh, what's going to happen if Trocheck has to go back in the locker room after that?" It's like, no, he didn't want to leave. It just happens to be the situation. So I think he'll be fine. Just play the game, play it right. Try to look like a professional team and go into the off season preparing for next season. And if he's here, he's here. If he gets traded, he gets traded. Now,
Yeah.
the thing that Dave said real quick before you go on is that it's Chris Drury. So you don't know what it's going to come up with or how it's going to come out to be. What's going to happen? Who the hell knows? That's my big point of consternation there.
Right. And I think that a lot of Ranger fans and a kind of the prevailing and some of the questions even from the local beats during his media availability went this direction as well. We're basically something to the effect of like, well, why did you release a letter when all you did was trade Carson Soucy and Artemi Panarin, who were right? And like, and look, if you want to look at that on the most cynical terms possible, it kind of does look like a transparent attempt to essentially get the fan base off of his back, right? And to sort of like head any negative feelings about a Panarin trade off at the pass. But this fan base isn't going to give up. Like, they're going to keep chanting fire Drury until the team starts winning games. So he just needs to be prepared for that. And that's part of sitting in that seat. And Glenn Sather sat in that seat and withstood the pressure, and again, by some strokes of luck, but by also some adjustments of his own, and some smart hiring of key people around him, he ended up building the Rangers into a decent team for the better part of 20 years. So, it's funny when I didn't watch the whole ceremony from Thursday night's game against the Leafs, but they brought Sather out on the ice and like he didn't get booed that badly. I maybe a few people booed, but like
No,
and
it
God
wasn't
knows
bad. I was there.
right, and God knows it wasn't a big crowd either. But the point is that he needs to reward James Dolan's patience here. Now, and at the same time, the fan base is right to be impatient. I think people want to see this thing start to turn. So, at the same time, Dave, I'm with you. And look, you're right. We'll never really know, but I would say that Bill Guerin and Chris Drury have both been pretty heavy-handed in the way that they played this negotiation out through the media. And I feel pretty confident as somebody with zero sources and no NHL reporting experience saying it probably boiled down to Danila Yurov, and Emily Kaplan basically said as much. And basically like Drury was like, I want Yurov. Guerin wouldn't move off of Strammel. He didn't want to give up Yurov, and that's what torpedoed the deal. So on one hand, you could say Chris Drury got tunnel vision, which Dave, you've rightfully pointed out has been an issue for him in the past, that he might have been so fixated on Yurov that it didn't enable him to look at Detroit seriously or Carolina seriously. And maybe he's underselling Strammel, who has, kind of turned around a mediocre college career and had a very good senior season at Michigan State. But frankly, like the other hand is like, if he didn't want Strammel and he doesn't think Strammel is going to be a real thing, and if Strammel is going to maybe be a free agent in 5 months anyway, why make him the centerpiece of your deal? And again, these things don't happen in a vacuum. The perception of the Artemi Panarin trade is that the Rangers didn't get fair value. So now you've got the added pressure of that. You've got everybody like, you've got Vince Mercogliano and everybody else that writes about the team saying like Drury has to nail this trade. Like this is the one. And he didn't feel comfortable pulling the trigger. And it does kind of remind me in a weird way how, and it is funny how it always comes back to this. And I apologize for bringing it up because I know people hate it when we do on all sides of the debate, but this is almost in some ways like a direct inverse of the Pavel Buchnevich trade, where that very much felt like the Rangers making a move just for the sake of making a move. And everybody who was against that trade was saying like, you didn't need to trade the guy. Yeah, you had him under contract for another year. He was an RFA. Like, why did you do that? And it was because they kind of just arbitrarily wanted to change the mix. That was just Drury stepping in and saying like, we need some new dudes in here. And so if you were unhappy that he did that, then maybe you shouldn't be unhappy that he didn't do that here, right? Because if you're just making moves to sort of like rearrange the deck chairs as opposed to like bring in a targeted player and get fair value for an asset that has high value and is very highly thought of around the league. I mean, Dave, I have to disagree with you. Like he's not. Vincent Trocheck is a good player. He's a.
I never said he was a
yes,
bad.
You did. You just said he's not a good player anymore.
I said he's going to get exposed.
No. Yeah, but all right. So then,
but the words he's a bad player. He's not. He's not Taylor. No, Taylor Radish actually isn't terrible.
I think the point is that on a good team, he's a high end third line center. Right. Like that's kind of where we're at. And so that also brings me to this. Braden Chen, who also is under contract through the end of the 2028 season, got a first, a third, a conditional first, a third, a no-name prospect, and Jonathan Drouin, who is a flawed but a legitimate NHL body. So
Drouin's 30, right? Drouin's old.
Yeah. No, yeah. He's not like a young player, but like,
Okay.
he was playing on Colorado's first line 2 seasons ago. He is not a, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, so there might be a couple coughs here. No, yeah, he is 30. He's not a young player with upside, but the point is that if you look at just that, the value of the trade, like the pieces that were needed to get Braden Chen, who I would argue is a worse version of Vincent Trocheck, frankly, he got a first, a third, a real NHL player, and a prospect named Marcus Gidloff, who I know nothing about. So unless that deal was out there for Vincent Trocheck, then Drury was right not to deal him. I think maybe I'm wrong. Is that not the comp, or am I misreading that, or is that the comp?
I'm trying to find who the prospect was to get something on him, and I just don't know who it was. Yeah, I don't know who the prospect was. So the rumor that was out there was Stramel and a fur. Is it Stramel or is it Stramel, by the way?
No idea.
So
Not
whatever
clue.
his name is, and a first, and an additional prospect, whom, based off of the fact that he was traded, I'm guessing was David Jiricek, because they held on to Spacek
Right.
and they traded Jiricek. So my guess is it's not 100%. My guess is it's Jiricek, and honestly, I'm fine with that trade. I like Stramel. I don't know much about Jiricek. I like Stramel. The only thing that I don't like is that he needs to work on his skating, which seems to be what every prospect the Rangers get. It's got to work on his
Yes, that
skating.
is
Got
they
to
have
work on
that
his
is their
skating.
type.
So, and now it's funny, Rob. I'm actually gonna go back and listen to the recording to see if I said that Trocheck is a bad player, because I don't think I did. Because
You
now
didn't
I'm like
say
fixated
you
on
said, you
that.
said he's not good anymore, I think is what you said. I don't know, JL, but did you hear what I heard?
I
Needs to be
heard what
judge
you
and
heard.
jury.
Maybe I'm going crazy, but I did hear that.
Okay, I may have said that in anger. I don't. Okay. He's not a bad player. I just think he's going to get exposed, and I don't think he's gonna put up more than 10 points in the remaining 20 games of the season. He's
Yeah, I mean,
shown that
yeah.
he's just not into it this season anymore, or at least it gives that impression. That's not like the Rangers have good players around him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I also look, if you think about, I mean, look, it's totally fair to point out like his scoring is going to decline. That is for sure. And I will also say that, and I've said this and I believe it, like I don't think his defensive game is as good as people think it is around the league. Like I think
It's
his net,
not. It's
right.
not. It's actually bad.
Exactly. So, but look, I mean, look, he also has a 75-point season, a 77-point season. Like you said, this season he's on pace. He has 39 points in 46 games, but he's probably not going to score at that clip the rest of the way. You're probably looking at, he probably goes from, he was 59 points last year. He's probably going down to like 49 this year. Maybe he goes back up to 50, 52. Then he's probably in the higher mid 40s. Like you're right. So, and that's just what happens with age. Like your scoring goes down. So, but that aside, he excelled in his role at the Olympics, right? He did play a checking role and a penalty killing role well. He does have offensive instincts. He's not going to be like a black hole offensively. And again, like I'm comparing him to Braden Shen, who is a center under contract, a leadership level player with playoff experience, like has all those things. And the Islanders gave up an absolute haul to get him. So again, my point is like, if that deal was out there and Chris for the Rangers from some other team, I don't think the Wild, first of all, the Wild don't have a 2026 first. And who knows how everybody else's prospect system kind of like shakes out. My point is that if that deal was out there and Drury said no, then he probably had Trocheck priced too high. And that is his fault, and he should be blamed for that.
So hold
I don't
on.
think
So
that
let me ask you a question though. If it is Stramel and a first and another prospect, and let's say it is Jiricek, is that not the equivalent of a first, a third, and this no-name prospect?
Who's a goalie, by the way, so you almost throw that out completely.
Oh,
I
God.
just looked him up. Yeah.
So I would value Stramel again, going with Jiricek because he was traded.
Yep.
And a 20, let's call it 2028 first, because
Okay.
give them something. Let's give them that. I would take that in a heartbeat for Trocheck.
Okay.
I at that point
That's
think Drury's priced too high.
Okay. And that's fair. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I don't think that offer was ever really seriously considered, because I think someone asked Bill Guerin today about, oh well, I figured, since we, basically paraphrasing here, but so basically since we won gold, that he'd give me a bit of a discount. So I think maybe either that offer wasn't considered or it was never put forth. So
That's true.
I want to say that as dense as Chris Drury can be, I don't think he would have turned down an opportunity to take that deal if it were presented to him. Or maybe he suggested it and Bill Guerin said no. It kind of seemed like with Carolina coming in last minute, they were really trying to see what they could put together, but all they could probably really put together is what Bradley Nadeau. Do they even have a first round pick? And what Kasperi Kokaniemi? But even that would be still somewhat of an underpay because, to be frank, Kokaniemi sucks. So I think
Yeah, well,
Not
you'd be
that
doing
bad defensively, actually. He's not. He's an
Yeah.
offensive black hole. He's the reverse
Yeah.
Vincent Trocheck.
yeah.
But you know what? At this point, if you're gonna get somebody to fill that spot, you want to get someone who's a bit younger who can probably excel in both offense and defense. So I think it makes more sense that if I'm assuming Drury. My assumption, honestly, I think from Minnesota he wanted either both of Stramel and Yurov. I think that's what it want. I think that's probably what it would have been, and probably a second. That's probably
That's too high for Vincent Trocheck.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
But-
I don't
That's
think
too
you,
high.
I don't
But-
think you wanted both. I think you wanted Urov
But-
instead of Stramel, and that's what killed the deal.
But either way, the one or the other, I think that whatever Chris Drury had put forth, whether it was one of those guys, two of those guys with a couple picks, Bill Guerin didn't want to pay the price, and without having a first round pick this year, I think that kind of really affected a lot of what they were trying to do. Because it really didn't make sense without that first round pick. I think Drury was looking for an extra third, a third first round pick, excuse me. And logically, I think if you're trying to chase that for Trocheck, I think that's logical.
Yeah, I wish I mean, this is also where it just comes down to what is the plan? Because if the plan is a true rebuild, like, yeah, you definitely want three, like you would take 3 first round picks in a heartbeat this year, right? I think if you're retooling, you could see you want to prioritize high end prospects and NHL ready players, and you're willing to punt on the draft picks or accept draft picks that are in from later years. Because you're going to end up in a situation where maybe you're contending and you want to have picks to deal in 2028, 2029, et cetera. So, but that really is where this comes down to. Look, we can argue about all this stuff. And I think that, like, you can have varying takes and opinions on like what you think this team is going to look like on opening night next year. I think most people think they're not going to be very good, but this all boils down to like, what the hell's Chris Drury's plan? It really is like, I hate to be so simplistic about it, but like, we're going to go into the draft, Dave, and like all of this is on the table again. And that is a little bit exhausting, right? You're kind of like, all right, well, is it going to be Trocheck? Is it going to be Schneider? Is it going to be Lafreniere? Are they going to now, like, is Adam Fox happy? Like there's just so much up in the air, and there's no indication that there is any like cohesive vision for the Rangers moving forward.
And Drury also shot himself in the foot again by releasing this letter, because he backed himself into a corner. We spoke about it with the Panarin trade. By saying you're doing this, all of a sudden people are saying, okay, we know that you're looking to sell everybody. We're not going to give you fair value. And the guys they want to move all have clauses. So there's some control there. And it's just like Drury he is so strict about the messages that get out of the Rangers, but he doesn't know when to shut the fuck up himself.
100%. Well, and I was going to say, Dave, like that is like, you're right. Like they are trying to sort of guard the corporate culture of the Rangers, as they always have across that franchise, and both the whole Madison Square Garden operation is like that. And yet, like, so much of this has played out in public. Like, everybody knows like the TikTok of the Panarin thing, and everybody knows about the Trouba thing, and everybody knows about the Kreider. Like, there is a way to do this where like no one fucking knows. And you just trade Artemi Panarin. And this is the other thing too. Again, I think because of the disaster that was the Barclay Goodrow, Jacob Trouba thing, with Panarin in particular, they were like, we are literally going to kowtow to every single one of his last demands, because we just do not want the PR mess of him being disgruntled and, essentially fucking us over and not letting us trade him and getting nothing out of him when he walks in free agency. But like, what a normal team would have done is they would have waited till the trade deadline, because you probably would have gotten somebody very desperate, and you might have had 2 or 3 teams that were very desperate, and you could have approached Panarin and said, hey, listen, we are happy to have you. You could stay here. You're going to play it out. We'll see what happens in the summer. Or team X that's a Stanley Cup contender like wants you, and you can go try to win and then still be a free agent. Like, and your options will be wide open. And I feel like that's what often happens. I mean, clauses get waived all the time in the NHL. You know, as much as people hate the no move clauses, and they do make things hard, these clauses get waived all the time. I think Braden Shen had one, and he waived it to go to the Islanders. Like, if Blues fans that do a podcast like this were talking about Braden Shen, they were probably like, oh man, like, he's not going to want to go there. Like, he's got family here and blah, 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 blah. And he's the captain. And like, these guys will waive their clauses if they have a chance to win, if they're excited by the prospect of joining a new team, all these things. So my point is that you do not have to show your hand. And the last year and a half has been Chris Drury basically signaling to the entire league, like, I'm desperate as hell to turn my roster over. And when you say you're open for business, that actually just is a sign that says, like, it's a fire sale and people are expecting cheap goods.
This is why I have so many concerns with not trading Trocheck, with waiting. It's just, I don't trust the guy making the moves.
Yeah.
It's just infuriating. And this has nothing to do with wanting to know, needing to know the plan. I get that the plan's got to be kept close to the vest because that's just how it is. But usually, and we had this with Sather, we had this with Gordon, we were able to see the plan through the moves being made.
Yeah.
From the start with Buchnevich, which was actually the second trade. I think the first trade was Howden for a pick. But from the start with the Buchnevich trade, we have not been able to figure out what exactly Chris Drury wants other than, quote unquote, north-south and tough to play against, which, guess what? Everybody wants to be tough to play against, and everybody wants north-south with some east-west. We had a pod talking about where you can't just have 100% north-south or 100% east-west anyway. So all teams want this. So what the fuck is he doing? It's like you walking. It's like when you get a new manager at your job, and the manager, let's say you work in healthcare, and the manager's coming from manufacturing. He has no fucking idea what he's doing. It's the same thing. Like, what is going on here, and how are we going to be able to figure out what the fuck he wants to do? This is why I'm so frustrated. Is there's no? It doesn't seem like there's a plan other than throwing shit at a wall and hoping something sticks at some point.
So I think that when it comes to having an idea, I think he knows what he wants to do. They can't get paid enough to just do things on the fly. I think that they have an idea, but they just haven't executed properly. And I think they've been one-upped and beaten by other managers, and also just kind of beaten themselves at the same time. Because the way that I'm looking at it, just going off of Mike Sullivan and how they want to build a team and some of the personnel they've brought, they're trying to build a sort of hybrid or a mix between the way the Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights play. But the difference between those two teams and the Rangers is that they're allowed to play that style of game because they have high-end skill players to complement that style of play. In Florida, you have Alexander Barkov, and you also have Matthew Tkachuk. In Vegas, you have Jack Eichel. You have Tomas Hertl to a degree. Who on the Rangers outside of Mika Zibanejad really could do that? Maybe JT Miller when he's healthy? Sure. Have to see when he's healthy to do that. But they need one more guy who can really fit that mold, or maybe two. But they also just need to find a way to add more speed to their lineup as well. So I think they've tried to. There's been a couple of reports that they've been in on certain players and haven't been able to finish the job. Like the 2024 deadline could have been much different if they were able to pull off a trade for Barabanov, if I remember that's his name correctly, because that's who he wanted to get over Roslovic. but he ended up having to pivot to Roslovic because Mike Greer didn't have enough slots to retain money on that contract for the Russian player. So I think that's what he's trying to do. But I think the reason why everything comes off so mystifying is because he keeps getting beat, whether it's himself or it's through other GMs who one up him pretty much.
Yeah, well, and that goes back to Eichel too. I mean, Eichel was always plan A, right? And that this was the whole. Again, I know I brought up the Buchnevich trade, and the sort of domino that was supposed to fall next was Eichel, right? They were trying to create the cap space, and that never happened. So he pivoted to Zibanejad, and look, again, like it's probably not worth it to. It's a separate podcast, let's say, to sort of relitigate all this. And maybe that's an off-season thing that we can really dig into, like how the hell did we get here? Because look, I mean, I agree with you, JL. Like if you really want to take the most optimistic view on the roster currently, here's my like very quick, and then we can get to some questions. Here's my very quick proposal, I suppose. Best case scenario to fix the Rangers, like with this core essentially in place. You have to trade Braden Schneider, and it's got to be for like a guy who can contribute. It's got to basically be like the Scott Morrow trade, but the Scott Morrow that comes is actually ready to play in the NHL, not the Scott Morrow that the Rangers got for Keandre Miller. And you're not going to get a first round pick, but that's fine. They are probably, and I'm saying this like very tongue in cheek, and I don't want them to do this, but like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like they're probably going to sign Alex Tuch because he like fits their style to a T, and he's big and fast, and he's essentially like Kreider light. And I would say if you really want to give it a go with this core of players, you should do what I've been saying to do for months now, which is move Noah Laba to the wing and lean into your three centers being Zibanejad, Miller, and Trocheck. And, then you can backfill, you could find a fourth liner, through camp, a guy that you want to bring up for that role, or you could go sign another Sam Carrick type for $1 million, whatever it is. You move Laba to the wing. You've signed Alex Tuch. Lafreniere, who has 17 points in his last 19 games, has looked better and is, maybe slowly taking baby steps into a larger role now that Panarin's not here. Gabe Perreault looks the part. Let's be honest, and we can be optimistic about that. He looks quite good, not elite, but looks like a very good, legitimate NHL top 6 player. And you still have cap space to make another move or two. So that's kind of like if you really put on the thickest pair of glasses on planet Earth, that's your best case scenario for the Rangers. And like, what is that team? That team maybe has the 8th or 9th best record in the conference, and it's not a very good conference. But that might be what they're trying to do because they believe in Mike Sullivan. They believe in Igor Shesterkin. They believe JT Miller has not been healthy all year, all these things, right? So now they also could just pivot to a summer trade of Trocheck, and then the retool is an actual retool. But it is very difficult to know what's going on because there is a definite possibility, Dave, that they think they'll be better next year when everyone's healthy. And I don't know if that scares you as much as it scares most people.
Oh boy.
I think they might honestly think
I didn't even think that was a possibility because I'm looking at this. And I think we have to point out that Alexei Lafreniere, since Artemi Panarin has been traded, has 8 points in 6 games and is very quickly turning a corner. So he's been
good. He's been good since
very
the calendar year kind of started with the Winter Classic.
Yep. So he's been very good, and get over the first overall pick, people. Like if he's a 50-point winger that drives play and is defensively sound, that's a win. But if we're banking on Lafreniere, Zibanejad, and Miller and Perreault being the top 4, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
How can you look at this team, even if you even when you trade Trocheck, and you have to trade Braden Schneider because
they have to.
This I'm okay saying he is not a good hockey player.
I would agree. Yes.
I wish he was. I wish he was.
And he's had all the chances in the world, by the way. They've given him all the opportunity. So that's not the Rangers fucking up his development or not giving him chances
Oh.
anyway. Sorry to cut you off.
No, he played with Gavrikov, couldn't do shit. Eric Gustafson, when Adam Fox went down, played with the corpse of Ryan Lindgren and still looked good in that role.
Yep.
And Schneider was playing with one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL and still looked like crap. So he needs to go. But if you're trading Trocheck, your second line center right now, if you're trading somebody who's technically in your top 4 defense with really nobody other than Scott Morrow to replace him, and you're probably not getting young NHL players for either of them anymore, how can you, and look at the free agent class too, how can you possibly think this team is going to be better next season?
Right.
If they truly think that, that's a big fucking problem. And it shows that the tunnel vision is that I'm not wrong about tunnel vision, because they have this thing. Let's say they get Yurov and a first, and then they trade Schneider to, I don't know, San Jose for Colin Graff. I don't know, pick somebody.
Yeah.
That's still not good enough.
Right.
Well, think about it this way, Dave. I see where you're coming from, but also you can't discount the draft pick that could potentially come through.
You're right.
If they somehow manage to either go after Jason Robinson, or even like Rob said, go after Alex Tuck. Okay, that's already an addition that's better than what they have currently.
Isn't Tuck 30?
So,
He is, but that hasn't stopped the Rangers before.
No,
If they want to get younger and faster, let's go get another 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, he's fast, so let's he's still fast.
Yeah, and 30's not exactly old, Dave, so stop.
My point is window to win. Window to win matters. Just because he's 30 and fast now doesn't mean he's going to be 33 and fast when they're ready to compete and win.
But he could still score, though. That's the thing. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that I think what really will make a difference is where the Rangers will pick.
Yes, it does.
If they can get something between 1 to 4, because today they had this. You could tell this is good old Canadian bias. They had a mock draft on TSN, and it just so happens that the Toronto Maple Leafs picked number 1 in their mock draft, while the Rangers
Of course.
Shocking.
Shocking.
Which, I mean, come on. I mean, give me a break. You might as well just call TSN the Toronto Sports Network at this point. But if the Rangers get a 1 to 4, then any one of those 4 guys, who I can only really honestly name 3 off the top of my head, I'm sure there's one more guy that will be able to fit in automatically, will be quick and will be fast and will be, young. And, ideally, obviously, Stenberg, McKenna, and Tynan Lawrence. To me personally, I think if you can't get McKenna at number 1 overall, the best bet is Tynan Lawrence from just Boston University, Boston College, or one of those two.
They're going to go Caleb Malhotra.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not terrible, but
I mean, he's not a bad pick. Like, he's going to be a good.
No.
He should be a good player, but when you're trying to get younger and faster and elite ceiling potential, it's not Malhotra.
Right, but either way, you're still getting younger, you're still getting faster. So that also has to factor in as well. So if you look at the top 6 as is, which I think at this point, with Rob's idea, is a good idea at this point, having the 3 centers down the middle with Zibanejad, Miller, and Trocheck, with Lava to the wing, you can really get a lot of mileage, because look, I'll say this, Gabriel Perreault. So I was at the Columbus game. And I was also at the Columbus game. What was the game before that where they lost?
The Flyers?
I remember. Yes,
Flyers.
I was at the Flyers game where they lost in overtime. I was at the Columbus game. I was at the Toronto game, and every single one of those games coming out of the break, even the game that they lost after they came back against
Columbus.
Gabe Perreault has looked fantastic. Like, he looks like he belongs, and with the more ice time he's getting, he's gonna fit right in, and he's gonna make an impact next year. Because when he scored that goal to make it a 1-goal game against Columbus, I was genuinely wowed at how NHL ready he looked. And then not only that, but also with the game against Toronto, him and Lafreniere were, I mean, you were seeing a lot of what Lafreniere was able to do in juniors because he was just so comfortable moving around. So if you add another draft pick, and even if you add Alex Tucker, let's say they end up getting a Jason Robertson, that's going to be completely different than completely having to rely on JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad up front. That is legitimate firepower.
Yeah, I mean,
So
they
I
need
think
to.
that definitely plays a point.
It does, and
Plays a
and
part.
and they. I mean, frankly, like, and I'm not. Teams just don't. Certainly, the athletes don't tank, but like, it really behooves the Rangers to lose a lot of games here and increase their chances of a top pick. Because you're right, JL. Like, and I'm no draft expert, and maybe we can have Hope or Will or someone come on as we get closer to the draft. But everything I've heard is that this draft like severely falls off a cliff after the first like 4 or 5 picks. So, and you go from like ready-made sort of like impact players to like pure dart throws, and kind of like, can you fill needs further down your lineup as opposed to like McKenna, Stenberg, Tynan Lawrence, etc. So look, you want to be in the top 4. The Rangers are kind of right on the cusp of having very good lottery odds to be in the top 4. So we'll see where that shakes out. All right, let's get to some questions. Let's do it.
All right, so first
everyone's really happy.
First, I'm going to start on the website because the ones on Blue Sky, I'll save that for the end. All right, so first question comes from Spozo, and Spozo asks, where do Green Tree and Battaglia, who Battaglia was traded for, and if that was
the Othman trade, yeah,
in the Othman trade, where do Green Tree and Battaglia rank in their prospect pool?
Green Tree certainly ahead of Battaglia.
Yes.
I think I won't even pretend like I know anything about Jacob Battaglia, but he's another guy similar to Green Tree and Othman that like they've been in the OHL for a long time, and there's kind of hasn't been that steady progression that you'd expect. That said, Green Tree's been really good since the Rangers traded for him, so that's at least something to be somewhat optimistic about. I mean, I think, look, probably what's going to happen is Green Tree is going to get a shot next year to make the team, but he'll probably start in Hartford. And that's probably the right thing. And then you see how he does in Hartford, his first season of pro hockey. So I think Battaglia will be similar, but he falls. My sort of read on it is that he falls more into the Brett Berard, Adam Sikora type of forward, as opposed to Green Tree, who is, has the deal, the chops to potentially be like a legitimate scorer, or Perreault, who everyone knew was going to be a high end forward. So that's my read on it, but I'm no prospect expert.
So we have to be very clear here. Just because a prospect ranks very highly in the Ranger system doesn't mean they're a good prospect. Because the number 4 prospect according to Daily Faceoff was Brennan Othman.
Yikes.
Number 2 is Scott Morrow. So based off of just that, if we're still counting Gabe Perreault as a prospect, then Green Tree is probably number 2.
Yep. Where do like Emery and Fortescue and those guys come in though? Because like I know that their defense actually isn't that much of a train wreck. Those guys are just further from the NHL currently.
Yeah. So Malcolm Spence is currently 3.
Yep.
Way too early to tell. Yeah.
Having a good year though. Yeah, it is. But
EJ Emery is 5. And Carey Terrence is 7, just to give you an idea of how bad this prospect pool is. Fortescue is 9.
Right.
So the Rangers don't have a good farm system, period. Just based off of that, I'd probably put Battaglia. I put him at number 10, ahead of Adam Sikora.
Right.
And then I put Green Tree at 2 behind Perreault, and Morrow number 3 at that point.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think Morrow will have more of an impact than most people think. There was a lot of parts of his game I liked when he was here, and I kind of wish he was still playing right now, because I think the more for him, the better. But
yeah, and Iorio is bad, by the way. The guy who's playing instead of Iorio is awful.
Well, the other thing about him is
I'm not meaning to pick on him, but just like you can see why 3 teams have passed on already.
Who was he on before San Jose? I can't remember.
Jeez. San Jose.
He's
cleaned him
not
up
a bad
waivers.
puck mover or skater, but like he does not understand the physical part of the game at all. And you have to.
Which-
Not saying you have to
which
hit
is-
people, but he cannot like angle guys off pucks. He gets his like stick whacked out of the way. Like he is bad. He's a bad player right now.
Washington.
Washington, which is funny because he's a big guy. You know,
He is, but some guys, I mean, Tyler Myers is enormous and does not like cannot play big.
Rob
I mean,
O'Gara.
he's more Rob O'Gara than Tyler
Wow.
Myers is a legit NHLer. I think Iorio definitely has Rob O'Gara vibes for sure.
Gosh,
I just wanted to bring it full circle to Rob's favorite Ranger.
To the last
I'll
rebuild.
I'll never forget being at Madison Square Garden where Joe Tollison said, starting defenseman Mark Stahl and Rob O'Gara. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And everyone was like, who is that?
Who is that? Yeah.
Funny
I will
story
say
about
that-
Rob O'Gara. As a defenseman and 33 NHL games, he has as many points as Brennan Hoffman.
Dave, I think you're gonna be using that one for a long time.
I'm looking up Rob O'Gara on HockeyDB now. I'm like, wait a second.
Oh,
He has
man.
3 assists. Brennan Hoffman has a goal and 2 assists.
Yeah.
This is actually
I
really
will
funny.
I will say I am, just as far I can't really as far as Green Tree goes, I think Green Tree is pretty up there and I think he'll be here next season, at least to fight for a spot. I like his game. I hopefully it translates into Hartford because I think he can be a very valuable asset if his skill set ends up coming out. As far as Battaglia goes, it's just I feel like that's just more of a lower bottom 6 body.
Yeah.
So you guys
Um,
made the prediction on that, so I can't really speak to that.
Let me read
more.
his scouting report. Excels in transition, relies on impressive one-touch and quick possession passes to the middle. This is from, I don't know where this is from. I'm seeing this on Reddit. Slows down, letting opponents charge at him, and then slips a pass through them. Not a good skater, but needs to work on that. Has middle 6 potential.
Yeah.
Fine.
I mean, considering he's what, a year younger than Brennan Hoffman?
He's
No.
young. He's young.
Yeah, he's young.
He's 19.
Oh, Brendan
19.
Hoffman's like 22, 23. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they turned Brendan Hoffman into something tangible is good. I'm going to give Drury credit for that, and I'm going to give him credit for the Derek Pouliot trade, turning that into something tangible. Aiden Thompson is in his rookie AHL season. He may be 24, but they turned net zeros into something tangible.
Yeah, I
They may
agree.
not turn into anything, but it's something.
Totally. No, and I
Right.
also look, I think he deserves credit for the Sam Carrick trade too. I know some depth centers went for more, but he read the room well there, like knowing, okay, like there's centers are highly coveted and we can get a couple of draft picks. And I think that was the right thing to do. So it wasn't a total loss of a deadline. All right, next question.
All right, next question. This comes from Ranger Fan 62. Once again, the Rangers screw up another first-round pick and trade Othman. The Rangers have struck out on a heck of a lot of first-round picks. When will they wake up and see their scouting and player development needs to completely be cleaned out and remanned?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, this is their Achilles heel. They have, I mean, when Chris Kreider was here, we often waxed poetic about him because he was maybe the single best forward they drafted in the modern era. You don't really
JT Miller count?
Jill Bears and stuff. Well, yeah, but JT Miller didn't hit his ceiling here.
Yeah.
And he had to be traded a couple. I mean, Tampa traded him too. So I don't blame the Rangers for that. I think he's got his personality issues and they've affected his career output. But no, look, this has been an issue and a lot of this stems from sort of the structural problem that is Chris Drury serving as both president and general manager. And they do not have like a serious head of hockey ops type person that can actually build out the scouting, the player development, the analytics stuff. And that people can scoff at it all they want, but all that stuff is really important. And the Rangers, for a very rich and prominent and proud organization, are not exactly staffed with the best people behind the scenes. They have a very good coach. They They have great facilities. Everyone always calls them a first-class organization, all that stuff. They're not cheap the way the Boston Bruins are cheap, but they are not leveraging their resources to build a best-in-class front office the way that the New York Knicks have. And that is the difference right now between the two franchises. That the second Leon Rose took over the Knicks, he went around the NBA and was like, oh, Utah has the best like draft guy. We're going to go get him. And this team has the best salary cap guy, and we're going to go get him. Like, they went and plucked from other organizations. He didn't hire his friends. He hired some friends because everyone does that in these types of situations. But they built an all-star team in their front office, and we still have fucking Jed Ortmeyer and Tanner Glass doing player development. And until that changes, look, they may luck into Gavin McKenna, or Stenberg might be just great, and it won't really matter who is running player development. But the reason they have not gotten any real contributions out of anybody they've drafted in the last 5 or 6 years is directly tied to that. It's just not a serious operation behind the scenes right now.
Well, I will say this too. This also doesn't fall on Chris Drury as well. I mean, granted he was there, but this was also very prevalent during Jeff Gordon's time here. And I think we're kind of getting the hangover of that as well, because a lot of the guys they brought in too, not exactly the best either. You know, Gordy Clark and Bobrov and all those guys. Yeah, I can't recall I think the only one I can honestly think of that came in during their time here was maybe Keandre Miller. But, you know, just to name a couple off the top of my head, Nils Lundqvist, even though they traded him, was not the player that they expected him to be. Obviously, Vitaly Kravtsov, you know, we can mull on that all we want, but, you know, he was given an opportunity to a degree to kind of play extended time and didn't perform well. And also the attitude. Elias Anderson, you know, so this is something that it's been there for quite some time. Once Sather was able to step down, the only problem is at least Sather, they also kind of, you know, wasn't actually the best on their part either. Like, I think Don Maloney left, they really haven't been able to get a lot of players to fill those roles, because you think about when Don Maloney was there, already off the top of my head, I think Brandon Dubinsky, Ryan Callahan, Dan Girardi, and Henrik Lundqvist. Those were all drafted by Don Maloney, or when Don Maloney was involved. And yeah, they've had maybe Chris Kreider, you know, to a degree, and maybe a couple of players who've been decent here and there. You know, you could probably make the case for Lafreniere to a degree. But really nothing has come out from that. And so this has been a problem for the Rangers, not just now, but we're talking going on the past maybe 19 years, you know?
Yep, for sure.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Any other thoughts on that, or?
Nope.
I got nothing.
All right. This next question, and this is probably my favorite account name, it comes from Producer JL Praise Account.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to do an IP check to see who that is, because I'm willing to bet it's JL.
No, it's not me, because I don't even have an account registered on here outside of my WordPress account. So nice try, Dave.
I mean, sure, you would say that. Rob, are you buying this? Because I'm not.
I don't know.
Why would I come off that shallow to do that on my own? I mean, somebody actually legitimately likes me. Is that hard to believe, Dave?
No, it's true, actually. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, JL, and you deserve your flowers for sure.
You're full of crap, Dave. Anyways,
I didn't say shit. You're the one that said it.
You implied it. Anyways, Producer JL Praise Account, thank you very much. And I hope you continue to comment more, because I would definitely love to keep reading that. They ask, 3 people recently voted 10 in the confidence poll. Should they be placed on some sort of watch list in the interest of public safety?
So when I calculate the average vote, I remove those 3. I never actually include them, because I know it's some trolls. The same way when the Rangers were, you know, winning the President's Trophy, we had a bunch of people voting 1s.
Right.
Like, I'm not including them either.
There's Devils fans. You always get like fans. This is like one of the weird internet behaviors of like our time, is that people will troll like fans of other teams, like I think I was watching like a Knicks post game podcast on YouTube, and like, you know, unfortunately YouTube, like, even if you don't want to look at the comments, if you're in a certain view, you'll see them. You'll see a few like highlights, and one of the comments that scrolled across the screen was from like a Celtics fan or some like non-Knicks fan. And I was like, are you really like taking the time to seek out this podcast that is like built by and for Knicks fans so you can like get on here and be like, LOL, you guys aren't that good? Like, I'm like, man, people need hobbies. They really do. Like the internet, if you use the internet too much, it really is not a good thing.
I could go on a rant all day about this shit, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
All right.
But should they be on a watch list for the interest of public safety if they're spending that much time on the internet? Probably.
Yeah, that checks out. This next question comes from Two Line Passes. Will it ever end? You know what I'm talking about.
Chris
Okay. I'm assuming we're talking about Chris Drury's tenure as Rangers GM and not the BBO.
What is going on?
The what?
The
Big,
what?
beautiful obituary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure he's talking about.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. I'm just being an asshole right now because people did not like our last podcast, so I just wanted to be a little bit of a dick and a troll.
True.
So
sorry, we don't agree with you politically. Actually, not sorry.
Oh,
that's okay, by the way. Yeah, no, listen. It will end, of course. Like, you know,
the Drury era will end.
Although he's so young, like at least like Sather got old. Like if Sather was 20 years younger, he would have had the job 20 years longer. So that's a little bit of
dude. Don't do that to me.
Okay,
don't do that to me.
Talking then, but you know,
don't do that to me. I can't do 20 years of Drury.
No,
I can't do this.
We'll be senior citizens.
Oh,
that's scary.
Please.
In 20 years, I will be 62 years old. If Drury is still general manager when my oldest finishes elementary school, so she's going to be 5, she gets into kindergarten this September. We have 5 more years. If Drury is still general manager and the Rangers are still this fucking bad, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't trust Dolan to get rid of somebody who's bad at their job.
Well, it's like what Brandon said. If Drury embarrasses Dolan enough, that's pretty much the only way to do it. If he embarrasses him enough, it just all depends on what threshold needs to be met for Dolan to be embarrassed enough where he has to pull the trigger, you know. But
so, what got Isaiah Thomas fired? What finally was the embarrassing moment? Rob, this is for you.
Well, that's the thing. That was kind of like a slow burn, and then like even after he left, he was still in these weird like advisory roles, and a lot of Knicks fans were concerned that like Isaiah was essentially still behind the scenes pulling the strings. This is real, by the way. And like Frank Isola actually essentially got like kicked out of the Garden and like can't cover the Knicks anymore because like, and you know, look, I'm very pro journalist, and I think like stripping anyone of their credential is ridiculous if they're not like outright abusing people verbally or otherwise. But like Isola got to a point in his coverage of the Knicks that he was like, it was almost like slanderous. Like he was basically feeding into these conspiracy theories that Isaiah Thomas was like basically like puppeteering James Dolan, and he was like actually running the Knicks. And this is after like when they hired Donnie Walsh, who brought in Stoudemire and did the Carmelo Anthony trade at the behest of James Dolan. So it's like things got marginally better for a few years there, and like Isaiah was like still around. So he eventually kind of like they kept getting him like cushy jobs, and they sort of like, you know, he like failed up and out of the organization. You know, I don't necessarily agree with Brandon's premise though. Like the dark ages of this team, I know a lot of you guys are young enough to kind of forget, like the dark ages were really embarrassing. The team was awful. Like they were a laughing stock. They were never competitive. The building was empty. The player that their best player some years was Sandy McCarthy. It was that bad. Like it was. No, I'm not. But like you're laughing.
No, I know.
It was atrocious. Like at least this team. Like look, Drury can easily walk in there and say like, "Hey man, like Gabe Pearl looks good. Lafreniere's still here. We still have Fox and Shesterkin. Like, we are nowhere near that. So
Saying that.
But they're still not good. So like,
Right.
I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't buy that this is like an embarrassment thing. I just think it comes down to like, frankly, like if you know how to work around the guy and sort of like stay on his good side, you probably keep your job. And, you know, I said this on a previous show. Like, I think it also comes down to laziness. Like, unless somebody like Sather comes to Dolan and says like, hey, I can make a call to Shanahan and he'll take the job and you can get rid of Drury. Like, sure, maybe that works. But other than that, like if somebody does the job for Dolan of hiring a new executive, then he would do it. But like, other than that, I think he's like, I trust Drury. He's a winner. He got us to 2 conference finals, which is going to give him some leeway here. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I didn't agree with Brandon on that either, because this is going to be an age thing. I think you have to be a certain age to realize how bad that 98 to 04 run was.
Yeah.
Like I caught it at the tail end.
Like the 97 year was kind of like the 2022 season. They probably shouldn't have gotten as far as they did, and then they got absolutely trucked by a better team. But then it was just bad trade after bad trade, bad free agent signing, and it basically became a country club for retirees.
Yep.
And that's actually kind of what we're seeing right now. Well, minus the retirees, but didn't somebody say it was basically a country club in the Rangers locker room for a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yes. I think there are more similarities than people care to admit here. I also think that, you know, it's less of a country club thing, or you know, you could use whatever terminology you want. But the thing that kind of scares me about the current operation is how like USA Hockey heavy it is. And even to the point you made earlier, JL, where like Bill Guerin was sort of like tongue in cheek saying, well, you know, I thought my buddy might do me a solid and give me a discount on my trade. Like, I think JT Miller feels protected. I think Adam Fox feels not protected because he's like out of the circle. And I think that creates a toxic atmosphere. And if you look at their staff, it's all fucking USA Hockey people. And like,
oh, Fox is gone.
You know, look, you're not going to get any diversity in the truest sense in hockey, but like even among the hockey types you can choose from normally when building out like a coaching staff and a front office, like there's no diversity there among the Rangers. It's former players and USA Hockey people. And it's very one-track mind. It's very groupthink. So that leads to that type of atmosphere where certain guys will feel welcome and protected and certain guys won't. And, you know, that leads to the type of shit you've seen from JT Miller, the type of stuff that you've seen from Trocheck at times. Now, look, maybe Trocheck's attitude changes. He's here. He doesn't have to uproot his family. His kids aren't going to be crying for 2 weeks because they have to move away from their friends. Like, these are real things. And I'm not going to, and you know, like, and I want to give Trocheck his credit, by the way, for handling this in a professional manner, because Jacob Trouba didn't. And, you know, there's a big contrast there because this is hard, and it is in the right of the team to potentially move you. And Trocheck handled it really well. And I think he deserves credit for that. And I do think he'll be a professional about it moving forward. Like, I don't see any potential issues for him walking into the locker room tomorrow and getting ready to play a game. So anyway, long-winded answer, but basically,
yeah,
it is trending in that direction. And the team badly needs like a shot of actual youthful talent. Because otherwise you just end up with like you look up and Sandy McCarthy's your best player, and that's not where you want to be.
So one thing that you said that really caught my attention was the groupthink, the Team USA protected feeling for Miller and Trocheck and not Fox. That, to me, is the third thing that I'm seeing now, that Fox is going to be traded in the offseason.
I think it's possible, yeah.
I don't think it's possible. I think it's happening. Okay. Because
it's going to happen.
If you look at it's not that Drury's going to look to trade him. I think Fox is going to request out because of that. And if you look at what he said, if you look at his body language and his eyes when he said it, he looks defeated. And now, Rob, you brought up a very good point about the Team USA groupthink. If he feels that he's not going to get a fair shake from his GM and two of his coaches because he wasn't on Team USA, despite the fact that he should have been, and there's that groupthink now, and they have the gold medal to kind of, they're not going to rub it in his face, but they have the gold medal. That's going through his mind too.
And that like validates their own thoughts and process. Yeah.
Yeah, it validates everything that they think they did. They used the wrong formula to get the right answer. And I'm happy that won gold, but for Fox in particular, he's looking at that for going, I don't want to deal with this shit.
Potentially, yeah.
And I cannot blame him. It's going to suck to have to trade him. But if you're trading now, if you're adding Schneider, Trocheck, and Fox to off-season deals, that gives you a 1 to 2 year turnaround. Objectively speaking, it gives you a 1 to 2 year turnaround, assuming he doesn't fuck up the trades.
Yeah, that's that's the sort of like the other side of the coin, as sort of unpalatable as that seems. Like, look, there's been a lot of nonsense about some of these Canadian American players in Canadian markets, whether that's Austin Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, right? Dealing with some barbs from the media and fans. Some of it politically charged, but others just like sore loser Canadian stuff. Again, and I know I've said this before, I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, but like Larry Brooks, from the grave right now is probably thinking like they're going to get Brady Tkachuk. Like that's the move. And Adam Fox is the guy you use to do that. Like that's the only way you could pry that player loose. Right. It's like,
God damn.
Well, yeah. And look, but Fox doesn't have any movement, no move protection until a year or two from now. So
no, he does. He does.
Oh, he does now. Okay.
Yeah, he does. He has a full no move this year and next year.
Okay.
Modified no trade in 27-28, which is a 16-team half a league.
Okay. Right. So if he requests a trade, then how does that work? Right. Does he waive it fully and then trade me where you want? Or
I can see him stabbing Drury and going, you know what? No, you can only trade me to Dallas.
Right, but then Drury might say like, all right, well then if I can't do a deal, like you got to play until something changes. Like, I don't know, that becomes very complicated, and that's again that's an off-season pod. Let's get to a couple more questions. Yeah, because go ahead, John.
Real quick, because I wanted to chime in on that real quick. I think it's just honestly, this isn't the first time we've seen consternation from Fox. And look, I'm not trying to get on Fox's case because he has a very legitimate gripe here. But I think at the end of the day, though, I think he just kind of, I think they need to kind of just talk to each other. Granted, they're adults. They know Adam Fox is worth gold for this team. And, I'm choosing to give them the benefit of the doubt to a degree that they did fight for him, because Bill Guerin does come off as kind of the guy where, it's his way or the highway kind of thing. That being said, another reason why I don't think that they'll trade him is because who are they going to find to replace him? Yeah, you could trade him for a guy, but unless Thomas Chabot is coming back, I don't think that's going to happen. It wouldn't, if they were going through a rebuild where they were selling off every asset, then yes, I can understand that. But I think it's just going to have to take some of where Fox and his dad, because that's usually where it's coming from, it's Fox and his dad have to talk to the Rangers and essentially say, listen, I know the Rangers want him here. If they wanted to trade him, they would have traded him a long time ago, before this coach. All they have to do is talk. They would have traded him already. If he really wanted to get rid of him, especially considering that they were not only going after Quinn Hughes, they could have just done it right then and there. They could have traded Adam Fox to Minnesota with a bunch of other players like Lafreniere or Schneider, and they would have gotten rid of him.
Bad team to use as your example.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I just wanted to call that out because
I know, but I'm just saying though, if they really wanted to do that, like if they really wanted to make a trade with Vancouver, they would have traded Fox to Vancouver with a couple of other assets. If they were really trying to quote unquote rebuild, but it's a retool. And Chris Drury and Mike Sullivan know that they need a guy who can anchor the defense next year and the year following that. unless they manage to get a guy who can do that in lieu of Fox. There's nobody from the system's coming in unless it's either a Fortescue or somebody else. So
Well,
it
yeah,
would be
he's not that.
foolish for
Yeah,
them to
no,
do that.
I mean, Morrow would be the guy, but because he's like got
Yeah,
that
but
offensive, but he's not Adam Fox, of course. No,
no, but I mean that's kind of like, and that's a bit, and it's no offense to Scott Morrow, but he hasn't proved to us yet that he can hold that mantle. Good defenseman, he could be. Excuse me, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is a lot of media coming up and Fox kind of low key airing his grievances through the media, which it's not abnormal for a player to do. But anyways,
right.
got 3 more questions. 2 of them are pretty brief. This one is from Light the Lamp, and Light the Lamp asks, now that the Carrick trade solidified the team's future, who is your pick to win the cup?
The one has nothing to do with the other, but Carolina.
Yeah, I'll go chalk Colorado. I think Colorado, especially they just got Kadri somehow. I don't know how that fits in the salary cap, but I haven't had the chance to look at that. I know they did dump some money and Calgary's retaining, but I'll take Colorado. They win every game 5-1. Like every time I look at the score, they're winning by like 4 goals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And their power play is bad,
Colorado.
and they still win by 5 goals.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Colorado. It's just Makar, McKinnon are basically carrying the ship again. So
yeah.
All right. So we got 2 questions on Blue Sky. These are more, I guess, kind of statements. Kind of sort of it'd be fun to read them. Pickle Rick 1138.bsky.social asks, what is the point? The Rangers or the Washington Generals?
Yeah. I burned the whole thing down. It's fine. The Rangers will no longer play hockey, and we'll see if everyone's still happy about that.
Yeah, go for the Islanders if that's the case. And then Over Macho Grande, great name by the way, asks, and I think this is actually kind of funny, will Othman get a video tribute when he comes back to MSG?
Why not?
This is what it's gonna be.
His one goal was a nice goal, so
it was, and I was glad I got to witness it in person too. Actually, I just remembered I also got to witness Yaroslav Hemelash's goal in person too. That was fun. It happened right in front of me.
That was a great moment. That was one of the better moments of the year, and good for him.
Right. This is how it's gonna go. They're gonna play some cheesy pop music, and Othman's gonna be sitting on the bench dejected, and it's just gonna say on the screen, "Welcome back, Brennan. Welcome back, Brennan Othman." Joe Thomason, and then and then then it's gonna be a game of cap or no cap.
Yeah. It's up for debate whether he plays another NHL game. He just might not have it. And that happens. And you can go back in a long line of Ranger draft picks. There's a lot of them throughout the years. And again, we don't need to rehash those names, but
Hugh Jessamine. Okay.
Exactly where my head was too, JL. Hugh Jessamine indeed. How could it not be? Listen, hey, the trade deadline's over, but that does not mean there won't be stuff to talk about. The Rangers are going to wrap up this season. It is going to be a busy summer. I do think that inaction today does not mean inaction in June and July. I think the Rangers will be active in free agency as well. And we'll try to get prepared for all that. We'll close the season out strong here. Guys, any final thoughts from you?
Dave?
Just remember, it's good to go outside, and we have a good weekend for it. Go outside.
We're getting fake spring this weekend and next
week. Yeah, we got fake spring coming up. We got like 4 or 5 days of 60-degree weather coming up before, I think, snow on Friday or some shit. But go outside, enjoy, get away from the internet, get away from social media. This is what I'm so thrilled about, but the trade deadline being done, I can finally just disconnect from Blue Sky and just disconnect in general. I'm going to start deleting apps off my phone just so I don't have to deal with this crap for a little bit, and I can actually start enjoying the weather, getting away from all this crap, and doing what I need to do. So go outside, have fun.
The Rangers will be there when you get back inside.
Yeah, don't go back inside.
So I guess just my quick closing comment is, obviously playoffs are not in the picture. So I guess at this point, if you really want to watch the team, just kind of take notice on some of the young players. Gabe Perreault is a very fun player to watch, and he's getting better and better every single game.
Alexis Lafreniere has definitely upped his game too, which is nice to see because, this kind of all stems on him playing well. And then also Will Cooley's coming a bit to life as well. Mika Zibanejad is also playing really well. Will they win every single game down the stretch? Probably not, but it's still fun to watch. And if the last couple of days are any indication, they're going to go out fighting to a degree. How hard, that remains to be seen, but they got a lot of guys here who want to fight and play for a spot. Obviously Trocheck being back in the mix might change certain things for some players, but now that everything's kind of passed and they can just kind of play hockey, you might see a more relaxed version of this team, and they might surprise you with a couple of wins. But just if you want to watch hockey, pay attention to some of the young guys, and then just hope for next season everything turns out okay.
Yeah, and they can win some games, but not too many, because I do want a high pick. But yeah, no, listen,
Yeah, me
thank you
too.
everybody for listening. And we'll talk to you next week.